Hi guys, welcome to the first module of my pattern drafting course. In this module, I will be teaching you the proper and correct way of reading your measuring tape. This topic seems irrelevant in clothing construction, but let me tell you, it's very important, most especially if you are making use of the inches side of your measuring tape. In this module of my pattern drafting course, I'll be showing you how to read your measuring tape beyond 0.25, 0.5, 0.75 and 1 inches. Also, I'll be showing you secrets and tips on how to convert your fraction values to decimal. How to read the small lines on your measuring tape without rounding up your measurement to the nearest value. If you are a beginner in fashion or you have a prior knowledge, be rest assured that this module is going to add a great value to you. Now, this is the good news. You won't have reasons to adjust your dress after construction by the time we are done with this course. So guys, let's get started. This is a measuring tape and it has two sides. The first side of a measuring tape is in centimeter. This is it. So this is centimeter, 1 centimeter up to 150 centimeter. While the other side is in inches. So it depends on the side you are familiar with, either inches or centimeter. So this is the centimeter side of a measuring tape and it has 60 inches. This is the standard measuring tape we use in taking the body measurements and drafting pattern. We have the one of 150 inches, which is longer than this, and there are some that is a little bit shorter than this, but the standard one is the one of 60 inches. On this measuring tape, we have different sizes of lines. This is the smallest size. I call it bar, the small bar. This is a little bit longer than this. This and this are of equal size. This is longer than this one, as you can see. This line is the longest. This line and this line are of the same size. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 lines that are equal in sizes, and we have 2 lines that are equal in sizes. The remaining 2 lines are longer than each other. So the total of bar we have on this line, which makes 1 inch, is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I started counting from the smallest to the longest. This is the shortest line and this is the longest line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All these 8 lines makes 1 inch. These small lines are not there for decoration. They are there for you to read. You have to read them. So when you are taking your measurements or you are drafting your pattern, your measurement falls on any of these lines, you have to figure out what it means. So the first line is 1/8 of 1 inch. As I said earlier, 8 lines makes 1 inch. So 1 line means 1/8 of an inch. 1/8 of 1 inch. So which means 1 out of 8. So this is the second line. You can see it. 1, 2. So it means 2/8 of 1 inch. 2 out of 8 lines. All these values are in fraction. And I'm going to teach you how to convert them to decimal when we get to the decimal area. So this is the decimal area. This is a fraction. Then after the second line, we have the third line. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So the third line means 3/8 of 1 inch. If you buy your measuring tape and you discover the lines you have outside is not up to 8, it is advisable for you to remove this metal. Yeah, this metal can add to your measurements. At times it will have shifted and you will not notice it, which means it can cover the first line of your measurement and you will not notice it. So just remove it. Once you remove it, you will be able to see the lines clearly. So having said that, then let's go to the fourth line. The fourth line is 4/8 of 1 inch. 4/8 of 1 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see it is the line that is longer. It is longer than the other lines apart from this longest line. When you divide 8 into 2, you have 4. So which means this line is the center of 1 inch, half of 1 inch. So that is 4/8 of 1 inch. After the fourth line, we have the fifth line. The fifth line is 5/8 of 1 inch. Then the sixth line, 6/8 of 1 inch. The seventh line, 7/8 of 1 inch. Then the eighth line, 8/8 of 1 inch. So this is the 8/8. That is the longest line, this line. If you are able to read your measuring tape from this point up to 1 inch, you can read it up to the 60 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So again, this first line is 1/8, second line 2/8, the third line 3/8, the fourth line 4/8, the fifth line 5/8, the sixth line 6/8, the seventh line 7/8, the eighth line, that is 8/8, which is 1 inch. Now you might be wondering, how do we get our normal 1/4, 3/4, half of an inch, 1 inch, and so on and so forth? What we do is we just divide this fraction to smaller figure. Now this is the idea. We are dividing by 2. 2 is an even number. Any number that cannot be divided by 2, we leave it as fraction the way it is. This is 1/8. 1 is not an even number, so we still call it 1/8. So any measurement you take and fall on 6, let's for an example, 6 and this first bar, it means 6. We will still have it as 6 and 1/8. There's nothing we can do to it because this one is not an even number. Then we'll go to the next one, which is 2/8. 2 is an even number. We can divide 2 by 2. When we divide 2 by 2, we have 1. 2 by 8, we have 4. So that is 1/4. So this 1/4 is your normal 1/4 that you know. 1/4. That is quarter of 8. 1/4. We are still on the fraction side. Then we'll go to the next one, which is 3/8. This 3/8 will still remain as 3/8 because we cannot divide 3 by 2. Though we can divide 8, but we must be able to divide the 2. So we still have it at 3/8. Any measurement you take and you have the value plus 3 lines. So you just write it as let's say 32 for an example. 32 and 3 lines is 32 and 3 all over 8. 32 and 3 over 8. 32 and 1, 2, 3. 32 and 3 over 8. So the fourth one, which is the 4/8, we can divide this. We divide our 4 by 2, we have 2. We divide the 8 by 2, we have 4. Then we have 2/4. And because this can still be divided, we continue in division. 2 divided by 2, 1. 2 divided by 4 give us 2. That is 1/2. That is your normal half of an inch that you know. 1/2. That is half of 1 inch. The fourth line. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is it. Half of an inch. Then we'll go to 5/8. 5/8, we will leave it as 5/8 and we'll call it 5/8. There's nothing we can do to that because 5 cannot be divided by 2. We can't divide 5, though we can divide 8. So we still have it as 5 over 8. Any value you have with 5 bars, you call it whatever it is with 5 over 8. For example, 40 with 5 lines, 40 and 5 over 8. That is the fraction. Then the 6th line, which is 6 over 8, we can divide this. We have 2 divided by 6. 6 divided by 2, we have 3. Then 8 divided by 2, we have 4. And we have this as 3 over 4. So we have this as 3 over 4. We leave it this way because we cannot divide 3 by 2. So we leave it as 3 over 4. That is, that 3 over 4 is the normal 3/4 that you know. 3/4. And that is the 6th line on your measuring tape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 3/4. 3 over 4. Then we go to the 7th line, which is 7 over 8. 7 over 8 is 7 over 8. 7 over 8 is 7 over 8. We cannot divide 7, so we call it 7 over 8. So any measurement you take with the 7th line on your measuring tape, for example, let me use 21. 21, you take your measurements and it falls one value and the 7th line. 21, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 21 and the 7th line. 21 and the 7th line still remain as 21. 21, then 7 over 8. Then the 8th one, which is 8 over 8. Don't forget we are dividing by 2. We divide 8 by 2, we have 4. Divide this also, we have 4. We have 4 over 4. We can still continue in our division because we still have uneven numbers. That is 4 over 4. We divide this also by 2, we have 2. Divide this by 2 also, we have 2. We can still continue in division. Divide this by 2, we have 1. Divide this by 2, we have 1. We have 1 over 1, and 1 divided by 1 give us 1. That is why on the 8th line you have 1, which is 1 inch. Now it is necessary for you to divide your measurements after taking them. You don't use the measurement the way it is taken. For instance, I take a measurement of waist 32. Waist 32 inches. Bust 39.5. Then the hip is 11.25 inches. All these values are not used the way it is when it comes to pattern drafting. So we have to divide them. The measurement taken in circumference are divided in 4, in 2, in 8. It all depends. So I'm dividing this by 4, this divided by 4, this divided by 4. The value my calculator will give me will not be in fraction, it will be in decimal. So that is why it is important for you to learn how to convert this fraction to decimal. So another thing is this: after dividing your measurement on your calculator, please don't round it up to the nearest value you are familiar with. Like I have like 11.125. What is 11.125? I can't find that on my measuring tape, and I know this line as 1/4, so that is 11 and 1/4. I just okay, let me make use of 11 and 1/4. Then on my pattern paper, I just measure 11 and 1/4, which is 11.25. And what I have for my calculation is 11.125, which is here. Instead of me now making use of this point to draft my pattern, I jump to the next one. See, this one line is going to multiply by 4 because this measurement is taken in circumference. I divided it by 4, so any value I added to it will be multiplied by 4, which means I've added 1 bar in 4 places, which is 0.5, half of an inch, a whole of half of an inch to my measurement. By the time I'm done with the construction, the dress will be half of an inch bigger than the normal size. So that is one of the areas you have issues when you are constructing your dress. That is not so I have to adjust, I have to pick this side, I have to hold that side. So please take note of that. Don't round up your measurement to the nearest value you are familiar with. Make use of the exact measurements. And after this course, I hope this will be helpful. You'll be able to locate exactly where your measurements fall on your measuring tape. The measurements we've read in fraction, now we want to convert them to decimal. It is very simple and easy. The first line on the measuring tape is 1/8. So that is the fraction. Decimal of 1/8 is 0.125. Don't be disturbed. How did I arrive at 0.125? Just take your calculator. 1 divided by 8 will give you 0.125. So when you are drafting your pattern or you are making use of a standard body measurement, if you are using a standard body measurement, you really need this decimal, because they will not put this value there. They will not put the decimal value, they will put the fraction. And you are seeing a value like 78, and 1/8, or 25 and 7/8. So this is what we have. You don't need to disturb yourself. Just take the fraction at the back, divide it with your calculator. Whatever you have, you will have 78. 1 divided by 8 will give you 0.125. Just remove this 0, then put your dots, then you have a 78.125. That is what it means. And for the 25 and 7/8, just take your calculator, divide your 7/8. Your 7/8 is going to give you 25.875. If you divide 7 by 8, you have 0.875. Just remove the 0, then you add this 875 to 25, then you have 25.875, between 25 and 875. And on your measuring tape, when you are drafting your pattern, just get your 25. 875 is 7/8. Do you know what? Why you need to know the decimal and the fraction? It will be easy for you to locate any value whatsoever on your measuring tape. It will make it very easy. Once you know 8.75 is 7/8, all you need to do is get your 25, which is here. Then 7/8 is self-explanatory. That is the 7th out of 8 line. This is 25. Then you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is the point of your measurement. This is it. This is it. It's not up to 26. So you don't need to round it up to 26 because you don't know where 25 and 7/8 is. So just count and make use of the exact measurement. So having done that, we'll go to the next one, which is, we have divided, so we are not making use of the big values we had before. So we are using the smaller one. So 2/8, when we are dividing, we arrived at 1/4. Don't forget that. So 1/4. So 1/4, that is 1/4. 1 divided by 4, use your calculator, is not a crime. You have 0.25. So any value with 1/4, just remove this 0 at the front, then add 0.25 to it. For example, I have 44 2/8. So that is 44.25. 0.125 is different from 0.25. 0.125 is smaller than 0.25. 0.25 is bigger than 0.125. For 0.125 is 1 line. That is the first line. 1 line. Why 0.25 is 2 lines? 1, 2. You need 0.25 on your measuring tape. 1, 2. So this is 0.25. 1/4. 0.25. Hope you did not forget how we arrive at 1/4. That is 2/8. It gave us 1/4 after division. So 1/4, the decimal is 0.25. Then the next one, which is 3/8. So we still have it as 3/8. Take your calculator, divide 3 by 8. Then you have 0.375. 0.375. That is what you have. So any value you have with 3/8, or you are calculating, or your calculator, you have value with 3.75, 32.375, 40.375, anything with anything plus 0.375, it means that value plus 3 lines. That value plus 3 lines, 30.375. That is 30 plus 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. And you make use of that point. Don't add to it. Then 4/8, we are not having it as 4/8 again, we are having it as 1/2. That is half of 1 inch. Half of 1 inch in decimal is 0.5. When you use your calculator to divide it, you have 0.5. That is half of 1. Half of 8 lines, the center, which is the center line, is 4, 0.5. So all your calculation, you have it plus 0.5. 30.5, 1.5, 6.5, 7.5. It means that value plus 4 lines on your measuring tape. So you don't need to be saying, how can I get 0.5 on my measuring tape? 8, 18.5, 18 plus 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 18. Your measurement stop on the 4th line after that value. That's 0.5. Then we'll go to 5/8. Don't forget, we did not divide our 5/8. We still have it as 5/8. All you do, divide 5 by 8, then you have 0.625. 0.625. Any division you did, you have 0.625 together with it. 0.625 together with it. It means that value plus 5 lines. That value plus 5 lines. 15.625. 15.625. It means after 15, I will add 5 lines to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is where the measuring stops. Then we go to the 6th line, which is 6/8. Don't forget, we have divided it by 2 and we have 3/4, which is 3/4. So we are having the fraction as 3/4, 3/4, and the decimal is 0.75. That is 3/4. So any value you have plus 3/4 or 0.75 still mean the same thing. It means that value plus 6 lines. That value plus 6 lines. The measurements fall on 38.75. 38.75. This is 38. Then how do I get that 0.75 on my measuring tape? Plus 6 lines. 38. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 38.75. I hope you can see it clearly. 38. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.75. You don't need to add to it. Then the 7th one, which is 7/8. Don't forget, we did not divide this because it cannot be divided by 2. We have it as 7/8. 7/8 in decimal is 0.875. 0.875. When you divide your 7 by 8 with your calculator, what you get is 0.875. So any value you have plus 875 means that value plus the 7th line on your measuring tape. So this is just the tip. Let me just give you a tip. The tip is, make sure you know the fraction and the decimal. Don't choose one for yourself. Like once I know the decimal, I don't need the fraction. Once I know the fraction, I don't need the decimal. See, in the aspect of calculator, you need the decimal. And in the aspect of making use of measuring tape, you need the fraction. You see 0.875, and you already know that 0.875 in fraction is 7 over 8. That is self-explanatory. You know on your measuring tape, it means the 7th line. Very simple. That is just the tip I'm giving you. Hope you get that. So the 8th one, which is 8 over 8. 8 over 8, don't forget 8 over 8, we did not have it as 1 over 8 over 8. We were dividing, we divided it until we have 1. 8 over 8 is equal to 1. The decimal is 1. 1 is 1. 8 over 8 is 1. In fraction, that is 1 over 1. If you divide 1 by 1, what you have is 1. So it's very simple. Just make sure you take your time, digest the fraction, digest the decimal, and you'll find it very easy and simple. So guys, that is all on how to read your measuring tape correctly. Thank you. See you in the next module.